What's up, everybody? This is Pastor Ty, and I am live today with Dr. Tashan Duff. And I'm going to let him introduce himself and explain exactly who he is and what he does for a living. And as you guys can see in the title, for Wednesday, we do focus on physical health. We pray about physical health, but then we also give a practical tip on Wednesdays. And so who better than Dr. Tashan Duff, who does this kind of for a living, to help us out with this. And this is a Q&A as well. He's going to be sharing some information, but this is a Q&A. So if you guys have questions about physical health or things pertaining to COVID-19 or the stay-at-home order and how that pertains to that, or some practical tips, you guys drop those questions below. So, sir, I want you to introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do for a living and how this relates to what we're going to be talking about today.
All right. So, as he said, my name is Tashan Duff. I am a doctor of physical therapy. So, physical health and the physical aspect of healthcare is my specialty. Even further into that, orthopedics is what I specialize in. And essentially just studying the way the body works, either with or without the absence of medicine, but essentially how exercise impacts the body and what we need to do, whether it's a rehabilitation standpoint, if you've injured yourself after surgery, you need physical therapy, or even a preventative standpoint to make sure that you stay healthy.
So this is not something that you just like to do on the side, but this is something that you do on a daily basis, right?
This is something I've dedicated 8 years of my life.
So you kind of know a little bit of what you're talking about.
A little bit. A little bit.
Just a little bit. So I guess one of the first questions I want to ask is, so how, well, obviously, you know, with the stay-at-home order, a lot of people have been changing the way that they exercise, or maybe people who have been hurt, how they rehabilitate, not being able to go into to an actual hospital or rehab center or any of those types of things. So first, even before we get into the stay-at-home order being lifted, what are some things that you can recommend that people can still do at home, whether working out, exercising, or people who are rehabbing from old or recent injuries?
So, well, first, let me make a disclaimer that even though I am a provider, I am a professional, I may not be your professional. And I may not, with that being said, I might not know all the intricacies of whatever detail somebody watching is. So take this advice as general advice. Still reach out to your therapist, your doctor, your provider, or what so have you for your specific injury or your specific condition. What I can say about exercise as a whole, one thing that we know, and we know very well, exercise makes the body work better. So whatever you are, whether you're a 2-year-old running around with a whole bunch of energy, or you're a 92-year-old trying to get through everyday life, exercise helps your body work better at every stage of life. So exercise.
So you don't just need to exercise just to try to be buff and try to get your bikini body or your beach body, right? Like, this is something everybody needs to be doing. I just want to be clear.
Everybody needs to be doing it. Whether you're all right. You know, a lot of people get married or they get in a relationship, they gain weight because they're like, oh, I don't have to look good anymore. It's regardless of trying to look good, you need your body to work well. And that's what exercise does. Exercise helps your body work the way that it's intended to work. Point blank, period. If you're alive, you need to exercise.
Definitely. So for some of those, I guess, people who are at home and they're like, well, what are some things that I can do? I don't have barbells. I don't have a bench. I don't have all of the state-of-the-art training equipment at home. Are there things that I can do at home? Or, and again, even what you do for your specific job, for people who are recovering from an injury, what are some things that they can do right at home, because they might be scared to actually go into an actual, to see a doctor with everything that's going on with COVID-19?
Right. So One thing that I'm really big on are, and we've made this known before on the page, are body weight exercises. Body weight
Okay.
exercises are very simple and something that you can do anywhere you have body. God's blessed us with gravity that doesn't let up. And so that's
He said,
all
that's a
it
blessing.
is. One time I was back in Lynchburg, Virginia, where we previously lived and where I graduated school from. I did I think it was like 6-week boot camp. It was called a bodyweight boot camp. And the premise is that God gave you everything that you need to change your own body using your own body.
That's
and
good.
So whether there's things like, some people are intimidated of squats. Am I doing it the right way? Am I doing the squat the right way? I would argue that you do a squat every single day when you stand up from a chair or when you sit down on a chair. So if you're intimidated of what a squat looks like, how can I do a squat? Am I doing this the right way? I don't want to hurt myself. Just go to a chair, sit down, stand back up.
You know, it's funny, when I was in high school playing basketball, our coach used to actually bring out a chair when we would do our squats, but you just couldn't touch it though.
Yeah,
so that's how I learned to do squats initially. But that's a good tool though, because most people do have a chair or a stool or something that they could use to at least practice the right way to do it.
That'll get you the right form. Just practice with a chair. Make sure your feet stay flat. If you do a squat, you shouldn't come up on your toes. Your feet should stay flat the whole time. If however low you can go is how low you can go. If a chair is too low for you, then stack some pillows on the chair, stack some books on the chair, and you just go up and down and up and down. The recommendations for exercise are 150 minutes of exercise a week. That could be 30 minutes 5 times a day. You can spread that throughout a 7-day week. But whatever you want to do it with consistency. Your body responds to consistency. You can't work out really hard one day, a little bit the next day, and then fall off the bandwagon. I would rather you do a little bit every single day and stay consistent than to go the opposite route.
So this might not particularly be your field of expertise, but how do you feel about doing the really high intensity workouts on one day and then resting the next day? Would you rest the next day, or would you just go light the next day?
So there's a bunch of options. Exercise, you can get as creative, as complex, or as simple as you want to with exercise. If you're athletic and you need something to challenge you and you want to go high intensity, by all means, go for it. But the key with exercise is you want to be challenged. If that means walking the dog around the block or walking with the kids around the block gets you breathing a little hard, then that's where you want to be. If you're more athletic and walking isn't going to do it for you, you need to run, you need to do some burpees, you need to do jumping jacks, whatever. You want to feel like you just worked, right? I tell people this all the time. After you eat, you want to feel full, right? You want to feel like you ate. After you sleep, you want to feel rested. You want to feel like you slept. So after you work out, you want to feel tired. You want to feel like you've actually done something. If you haven't done that, then try to gradually push yourself into doing more.
My track coach used to tell me that if you don't feel like you're about to throw up after you get done running, you ain't run hard enough.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
But I also heard this too. So I'm not really a treadmill kind of guy. I don't really like running on the treadmill. Just because for me, I need that scenery. It gets boring to me personally after a while, and so I'd rather run out in nature. I'd rather go outside and run. But running outside also is harder. It's tougher on my joints, on my knees, and that type of thing. So there was a study or research that I found that talked about that if you, well, at least specifically dealing with calories, that running and walking, you're burning the same amount of calories. If you run a mile or if you walk a mile, you're burning the same amount of calories. But if you're running, then you're just burning them much faster.
Right.
Now, just talking about calories, not muscle mass, not toning, not any of that stuff.
Right.
And so I kind of got used to just walking as a way of burning calories, or at least to stay in a normal routine of some type of fitness. What do you say to that for people who maybe, again, are recovering from maybe an old injury, a recent injury, who are not able to have those high intensity workouts, or who can't handle, some of them maybe not even quite ready to handle their full body weight.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good point, because I am familiar with that study that says if you run a mile or if you walk a mile, you burn essentially the same amount of calories. Because if you think about it, if you run a mile and it takes you 6 minutes, if you walk a mile, it might take you 10 minutes. So you're working longer. So it kind of, at a point, it pretty much offsets, which is true. But to segue before that, if you're focused on burning calories, if your focus is burning calories, with nothing's wrong with that. You want to exercise, that's a result of that. It's a lot easier to not take in the calories you have to burn than it is to take them in and thinking you're going to work them off. I'll give you an example. Well, first of all, the premise behind that is watching what you eat is the best way to lose weight. Exercising is the best way to keep weight off.
Hold on, say that again.
Say that again. Yeah, exercising is not an efficient way to lose weight. It's the best way to keep weight off. The example for that is the irregular Snickers bar is about 300 calories. It's 260 to 280, so about 300 calories. You would have to run or walk 3 miles to burn that off. Now, my question to you, is it easier to do those 3 miles or
right? Right.
So a lot of people say, oh, I'm just going to burn it off, but you're actually not doing what it takes to burn it off, and you're still keeping some of that. So it's a lot easier not to eat that Snickers bar than to think you're going to work it off.
You know what? I can't even front, like, that used to be my theory. That was my way of living, honestly. Like coming up, my thing was eat what I want and then just go work it off. I mean, because not only was my metabolism, relatively fast, but I was also an athlete, so I stayed active, and so I was just kind of like that became my theory. I'm starting to learn more now just about eating healthier, not having to do as much work and beating your body up if you would just, in most cases, just eat the right foods. That's a whole different category by itself.
That is.
We do have a question.
Okay.
Where should a person who wants to change their eating habits start? That's actually from Lady Taryn, my favorite.
I would imagine that she has more answers on that than I do.
Right. We're going to have to, all right. Well, I think you just started something, because we're going to have her on the next one. So
a good point for that. We might not like this answer, but this is the truth.
Well, let me say this too, to filter that answer, because we are talking about physical health, and of course, healthy eating goes along those lines of physical health. But if we can tie that into somebody who is exercising or working out, or someone who is striving towards that physical health.
Okay, so very first thing you want to do before you change anything, you want to drink more water. Drink water. Let me see it. There it is. I was waiting for you to see that. Now,
you already know.
Before we get into anything else, explain to everybody what you've been doing and how it's been making you feel.
Look, listen. So I got this jug of water right here. However many ounces, 116 ounces. And I've been chugging this thing most days. I got to be honest with you. I missed a couple days, but I've been doing pretty good. I've been pretty consistent for the most part. But since I've been knocking out this water daily, just this by itself, I've not been necessarily working out more or more active or changing my eating habits. I've just been drinking water. It's been the only big change. And my energy has gone up. I've not been as tired during the day. Normally, midday when you get that slump around 2:30, 3 o'clock, not really experiencing that. But on the days that I miss out on drinking, those are the days where I feel a little bit more sluggish, where not as much energy. It's also really filling. So I'm finding myself snacking less throughout the day because it feels filling, even though it's really not that much. And then of course it's cleaning you out really fast too. So yeah, all the benefits and something that simple.
Right. It's very simple. At least 70% of your body is water. Subsequently, 70% of the earth is water. I don't think that's a coincidence. But
Right.
majority of what you are made up of is water. It's very important to drink. I mean, I just got these bottles, but I drink a bunch of them. It's very important. Most people do not drink enough water, not nearly enough water. Before you started this, you thought you were doing pretty good, right?
I thought I was.
But you notice a huge difference just by drinking.
Out of this whole jug daily, I might have been drinking probably about this much. No lie. It's bad.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, sweet tea is not a substitute for water. Sodas are not a substitute for water. Gatorade is not a substitute for water. This is why water is so good for you. I'm not even going to get into all the food yet. I'm just going to focus on water because I think a lot of people can incorporate water.
Yeah.
Water, a lot of the things in your bodies are regulated by balance. So you have a lot of minerals, salts, sodium, potassium, calcium, all those stuff. Even hormones. The hormones that you have are regulated by fat or water. And so without you having the right concentration of water in your body, it throws the balance of everything off. And so that's why when you do have enough water in your body, you get those effects of your skin clears up, your hair grows better. My hair grows better. Let me see. Your body, you're more alert, you're more focused, all those type of things, because your body can balance itself out. That's hugely important because a lot of our bodies are out of balance.
I didn't even, I mean, I know a little bit about drinking water, but I didn't know, I really didn't research the effects that it would have. It wasn't one of those things where I did a bunch of research and I was like, oh, all I gotta do is just drink a lot more water. It wasn't that at all. It was just, I feel like I want to drink more water, so let me just try. And then I started doing it and I started noticing the difference as a result. So it wasn't even really intentional. But it worked. That's my new fit.
I will try. This is my challenge. Listen, if you're watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching after the fact, if you don't drink water, drink more water. I would challenge you. If you are drinking water, double it up. Double as much as you're drinking right now. And if you are drinking other things, try to substitute that for water. Just try it out for a few days. See how you feel.
Now, there was something that you said. You mentioned, one of the things that you mentioned that was not a substitute for water is Gatorade. And I know this one dives kind of deep because especially for athletes and people who do have a lot of play high intensity sports, because from my understanding, Gatorade is like a quick fix, right? Gatorade just sends all of the necessary kind of repairs to your body to help it recoup faster. But water is what you actually need, is the essential element that your body needs, but Gatorade just gets it to you much faster. Do you know anything along those lines? I mean, I read a little bit, but I don't know a whole lot about it.
So they go hand in hand. Gatorade has a lot of what we call electrolytes. What electrolytes are the salts that I was talking about, the sodium, potassium, calcium, all those things that your muscles really need. Your muscles really need those three things, sodium, potassium, and calcium, to be able to contract. So if you're an athlete and you're using your muscles a lot, you're working out a lot, you're burning through those electrolytes really quickly. And so what the Gatorade does is it replenishes those electrolytes. So it's just, imagine fuel, imagine gas. You're burning through your gas tank really well. Electrolytes from Gatorade are the gas tank to fill you back up. Now, again, everything's a balance. So if you're taking in more electrolytes, then you also need that water to balance it out. Okay. And so that's what it does. They really go hand in hand. For the average population though, we're not athletes. We're not working high intensity. So if you're just sitting around the house and you're drinking Gatorade, then you're throwing that balance off even more. You have more salt in your body, which actually is going to make you thirstier because your body is saying, hey, I have too much electrolytes. I need some water to flush it out.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. Somebody else asked, what are your thoughts on juice? Actually, that's Lady Taryn again. What are your thoughts on juice? You're talking about not having a substitute for water.
Juice, again, everything else, there are good, I'm not saying all you have to drink is water. Juice has its benefits as well, because fruit juice, you got to look on the label. Sometimes the label will say
You
like
have to read the label.
5% juice. That's not juice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a drink. You want something that's 100% juice. Orange juice is really good. Cranberry juice helps clean you out. So they have extra benefits that they're getting because they're made from fruits. But a lot of times, I mean, you got to check again. They can have additives, they can have sugars in there and stuff like that. But as a baseline, water is going to be one of the best things for you.
Definitely. I second that opinion. In a transitional topic, so with a lot of local governments, I know Charlotte, I can't speak for everybody that's watching in your locality, but with Charlotte, last week they started opening up some businesses. This week they're going to be opening up the vast majority of a bunch of other mainstream, whether restaurants, malls, stores. Fitness centers may not be until next week. I got to double check. But with that in mind, what would you say for the person who's thinking, okay, well, things are opening back up. Now I can rush out and I can go to the gym and get fit. What are some of your thoughts on those people rushing back out into the fitness centers?
So, a couple of things. As far as North Carolina, I can only speak for North Carolina because that's where I reside. Our governor, Roy Cooper, is signed in. It's kind of a reentry program that goes in 3 phases. So each phase is proposed to be about 2 weeks long. So the first phase signs in this Friday at 5 o'clock. And that's about 2 weeks. So that's when they start opening up retail stores, retail stores. And it kind of opens up the essential versus non-essential so that more businesses can open. Parks and stuff are a lot open as well. After that 2 weeks, they're going to relook at the numbers and see, okay, can we start opening up the insides of restaurants in the second phase? And then they're proposing that by the third phase, gyms can be open. So it's still going to be a while before gyms open. Now, the stay-at-home order is still in effect. So we're still encouraged to stay at home. The only thing is there's more reasons for you to be able to leave the house. Put it that way, because more stores are open. So that legislation's in place so that everybody doesn't rush out and then we see a new resurgence and stuff. You still want to wear a mask.
Yeah.
You still want to be 6 feet apart from people, and you still want to wash your hands. And so hopefully the thought is, with those things still in place, it's not just like, oh, I can go out now. Let me rip everything off and jump into a swimming pool.
Of course.
You still want to be smart. You still want to be cautious. And you want to, just like anything else, you ramp back up into it. That's probably be one of the safest ways to do it.
Yeah, I think it makes me a little nervous to jump back out so soon. I imagine that it will be I know it will be a lot of people out. Even last weekend, we had to run out a couple times, and it was busy. I mean, cars all over the place, parking lots, lines, everything. And so I know people are really anxious to get out of the house, especially people who don't have the means to work out in their own homes. And, people have been doing the best they can, at home, but I know a lot of people are ready to get back to some of those facilities. Now, with your personal job, have you seen an increase or decrease with the amount of people that have been coming in or checking in? Or what's that kind of look like from your viewpoint?
So in our job as well, I work in an outpatient clinic, which means it's not attached to the hospital, just something you make an appointment, you come see me, and after your appointment is done, you leave. We've seen a drastic reduction in numbers. One, as a company, we've prioritized people that are high risk and encourage them to stay home, essentially. Yeah. If it wasn't emergent, if it wasn't just after surgery or something that's, if you don't have this treatment, then you're going to have some drastic effects. Then we don't have anybody but those people coming into the physical clinic. We've actually started virtual treatments. So it'll be something just like this, where I'm instructing you and doing some things. And it's pretty creative. A lot of people say, well, how would that work with physical therapy? It can, and it's actually pretty impressive. But as the weeks start coming with this reentry phase, we're going to have a lot more people that are low risk come back into the clinic. But again, we're still spacing things out. The treatments are still, we're still having some virtual, but then as well, we're spacing things out where we're wearing our masks, we're, doing hand hygiene and things of that nature. We're making sure everyone's protected. You have to get your temperature scanned before you come in. And if you have any signs or symptoms, you're not. We just reschedule.
Definitely.
The big thing is we want to try to have some type of normalcy, but not at the risk of increasing this thing at all.
Of course. Right. So we'll get ready to finish up. I definitely appreciate your time. I do want to ask one more question or your thoughts. So I know a few weeks ago we put a video on Flowing Life, and you were talking about hum yourself to health, and you were explaining that with this particular infection, it tries to attach itself to the lungs, and so something that you could do is just as simple as humming helps your lungs to vibrate and can decrease the risk of it attaching itself, or increase the risk of pushing it or rejecting it. I thought that was an amazing tip, because simple things like that, it doesn't cost any money to do it. You don't have to get any treatment to protect it. You don't even necessarily have to wear a mask. You could be sitting in the privacy of your own home. You could be driving in your car and just humming, and you're protecting yourself. Do you have any other kind of practical tips that people can use, that they could do in their own homes or by themselves, that could help them prevent, especially again now with it open, with community starting to open back up, now a lot of people are going to be more susceptible. Do you have any more of those hints that you would want to share?
Yeah. A couple simple things. One we already talked about. Stay hydrated. Stay hydrated. Again, your body, when your body's working at its maximum capacity, you can fight off a lot of things. And your body is very well designed to be able to fend for itself. So when your body, again, when those hormones are regulated, when those, all the salts that you have in your body, all the electrolytes, when everything is in a balance, then you're better able to have your immune system attack things. Also, another thing that we were talking about not too long ago, when you're hydrated, when you drink something or when you inhale, part of your throat, it all comes in the same way, and then there's a split where one road goes down to your lungs and one road goes down to your stomach. If you're constantly drinking fluids, then the route essentially to your stomach is open a lot more. And if things go down to your stomach is so acidic that it kills a lot of bacteria. The problem is where people get pneumonias and things like COVID is where these routes enter to your lungs. And when it enters to your lungs, then, your lungs are not able to combat that as much. So if you're staying hydrated, that's even flushing your system out. That's what we call it. Flushing your system out, where you're just better able to protect yourself. So staying hydrated is huge. Second thing you can do, stay informed. Know if you're at risk, what type of precautions you need to take. Again, when you go outside, when you go anywhere, you want to wear a mask, you want to wash your hands, you want to stay at least 6 feet apart from people. That's going to be something that's very easily implemented. But you want to know who's open, who's not open. What are these store policies? What are the stores doing to help clean? Are they cleaning grocery carts? Do you need to clean your own grocery carts? Things like that, to where you can kind of take matters into your own hands as well. I talk to my wife about this all the time because she's very cautious, and sometimes I get on her, but it's good to be overcautious. And
I got one too.
Yeah. Overcautious is not bad, because you can't assume that other people in stores are taking the same precautions that you are taking.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So stay hydrated, stay informed. Last thing, stay active. That's what this is all about. Again, when your body is working at its best, it can defend itself at its best. Another good thing to do is, especially since gyms aren't open, they've opened parks They've opened trails. If you get outside, especially in a place where a lot of trees are, green trees and leaves help filter the air. They help promote a lot of oxygen. So they clean the air out, actually. So when you're outside, it's an open space. You have wind drafting as well. It's actually harder to contract the virus because it's not in a confined space, especially when you're working out. When you're working out, you start breathing harder. You have what we call an increased oxygen demand, which means your lungs are working harder. You're taking more stuff in. If you're in a closed space and you're breathing harder, then obviously you're taking more stuff in. But if you're outside where there's fresh air, you're taking in clean air and you have a less risk of problematic infections and things of that nature.
That's interesting. Because it just makes me think, say for instance, once they get ready to open fitness, well, not just fitness centers, but pretty much any business for that matter. What I'm hearing you say is, of course, naturally with open spaces, it's harder to attach than in an enclosed space. So if that becomes an option of yours, whether it's for a restaurant, whether you want to say, hey, now they're open the inside of a restaurant, should I do takeout or should I go sit down? Maybe it'd be best for me to do takeout. If they have a fitness center that's offering, hey, we're going to do outside Zumba classes instead of inside, maybe I should opt for the indoor, even though they might still be doing social distancing inside. One of the biggest things I heard you say was when your body is operating at max capacity or at its best, then it fights off any infection and any disease better. And I think that's clutch as well, because especially with us being home for so long, I know a lot of people have probably been snacking more than normal, eating more than normal, working out less than what they probably should, or less active. And so those simple things like that, or even what I mentioned this a few weeks ago, the ABC stores lines have been wrapped around the corner. People have been bored, so they've resorted back to old habits of either smoking, drinking, whatever. And all of those things increase the risk or make you more susceptible to infection or to virus. Just open your body up to those things because it's weakening your body and even your immune system in a lot of cases. But I think that's clutch, and that's very good information. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you taking out time to help not just our flowing lifers, but anybody else who got a chance to stream today. This definitely won't be the last time, but definitely for Wednesday Physical Health, this has been clutch. And we're going to definitely have to get you back on for another session. And you might as well go ahead and get your wife the heads up, because she's going to be coming on pretty soon too.
Sure thing. Listen, if anybody
might be streaming right now.
If anyone has any further questions, feel free to comment on them, and we'll definitely try to get those answered as well.
Yeah, definitely. So again, appreciate your time. And until we do this again, thank you, sir. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Yes, sir. You as well.
All right. Peace.